Good morning. Welcome to our broadcast of the June 1970 graduation exercises at the University of Iowa in Iowa City. This morning we shall have the opportunity of witnessing the graduation of the largest class in the history of the university, nearly 2,500 students, 2,497 to be exact. This breaks the record, which was set last June, the record of, up to that time, 2,472. The total number of degrees awarded during the present school year, that is 1969-70, now reaches 4,323, which is another record. The previous high having been set last year, that is during 1968-69, with a total of 4,254. The total for this year includes 967 degrees granted in August 1969, 858 in February 1970, and the 2,497 being awarded today. Now, just one more figure for the present. After today's exercises, the total number of degrees awarded by the university since its founding will have jumped to 113,449. And those of you who have been following these commencement broadcasts will remember back when I was wondering whether we would ever reach 100,000, but we have reached 100,000 and have gone considerably beyond it. As you know, in the past, the university has followed the practice of holding 3 commencement exercises each year, in August at the end of the summer session, in January or February, depending upon when the summer session ended, depending on the date at which the first semester ended, and then in May or June. This year it is in May, at the close of the second semester. This school year, however, the August and January commencement exercises were canceled as an economy measure. It costs money to stage commencements. Degrees were granted, of course, as usual, but by mail rather than at exercises of this kind. Today's commencement printed program, which has the feel of the New York telephone directory, or at least the Iowa City telephone directory, contains the names of all the people who were given degrees last August, that is August of '69, and in January. And these graduates were given the opportunity of attending the exercises this morning if they wished. How many plan to be here, of course, I don't know. You understand that these graduates are not included in the 2,497 figure that I gave you just a few minutes ago. That figure covers only the students who finished their work this June. However, the record figure for the 1969-70 school year that I mentioned earlier, 4,323, does include the August and January graduates, and their names are in the program that is being distributed this morning. Well, now that we have the broad statistical picture straight, let me try to describe a bit the scene that I see before me. But let me say first that final examination week began on Tuesday, May 19th, and ended on Tuesday, May 26th, the day before yesterday. But I'm sure you know from the papers and radio and TV that the semester ended in some confusion, due in large part at least to the concern of students and others over the war in Vietnam, particularly the movement of United States forces into Cambodia, and also concern over the deaths of the 4 students at Kent State University in Ohio. Our university remained open, although many universities in the country closed, but our students were given options with regard to the way in which they finished the work of the semester. I do not have the figures on the numbers of students who elected each of the various options, but I do know that quite a few of the students took one or another of the options and left the campus a bit early, and so the semester did not close in the usual way. Some of the students who are graduating today are evidencing the concern that I mentioned earlier by wearing white armbands. The students have just started to march in, and you may hear the music of the processional in the background, and I am looking to see if any of the students who have already taken their places have on white armbands, and I don't see any so far, but there will undoubtedly be a few who are wearing the bands. A few students will be wearing other kinds of emblems, at least I have read this in the paper, such as the clenched fist emblem, and these will be pinned to their gowns. Well, as I said, the processional has just begun, and as a matter of fact began just a bit early. It will take time to march in all these students, and the people who are managing the convocation are trying to get a running jump on things. The members of the platform party have not yet taken their places, but the students who are graduating have started to file in and are moving in fairly rapidly. As I've said many times, they tend to come in quite fast until they begin to file into the rows to take their seats, and then things slow up a bit because the chairs are rather close together and you have to go in sideways, and it takes a little time. And then the people toward the end of the row always hesitate just a bit to make sure that there are enough chairs for everyone, and these little time lags at each row build up to the point where the march is bogged down a bit. They do everything they can to move the students in quickly, but it takes time to move large groups of people. As I've said before also, they bring them in to the seating area at various places. They don't run them all in the same line, but feed them in from the front and from the middle and from the back, and this helps move them quickly. There is now quite a lot of activity on the basketball floor area below us, and the gowns, as usual, are colorful, although everybody sort of looks alike. That is, each little group has the same appearance. There'll be a group in black gowns with green hoods, and then a group in black gown, the black gown but with a purple hood, and the color comes in patches rather than in terms of individuals. The University Commencement Band, under the direction of Frank Pearsall, is playing for the processional. The band members are seated up front, that is in front of the stage, immediately in front of the stage. The stage, however, is way back toward the west, so far back that a person with my kind of vision can't even quite be sure what's going on up there, although I'll try to get a sort of feel for it as the exercises proceed. There are 90 members of the commencement band this time, and they played a prologue, a little concert, before the processional began. As a matter of fact, they started that concert just as I walked in this morning at 9 o'clock. They played for some 20-25 minutes and then began the music for the processional. They'll play later for the singing of the national anthem and Old Gold towards the end of the program, and then for the recessional, the music by which the graduates, they'll be graduates by then, not seniors, march out of the field house. The platform officials still have not taken their places. I gather that they will this time march in last, although I thought in other years that they headed the procession, marched in first, and took their places at the on the stage. There will be some 79, I think. Maybe I've counted wrong, and I can't find the figure that I jotted down earlier at the moment. But there are 2 rows of chairs stretching clear across the platform, and that, of course, is the width of the basketball floor area and the aisles on both sides, and that means a lot of chairs, and I think there are some 79 chairs in each row. The people seated on the platform will be, of course, first the people who will participate in the program this morning, and then other officials, deans, heads of units, at the university, and a representative group from the faculty. I usually give a style note in June, but I've about come to the conclusion that the kind of style note that I give about what people are wearing, particularly the women, is not very meaningful. Because as I look over this group today, and there is a large audience here today, one of the largest I've ever seen, and you would expect that as the number of graduates goes up. As I look over this group, I see practically every color you can think of. I see, as usual, a lot of yellow. I see a lot of green. I see some reds, but I even see brown and gray, and there aren't many other colors than that except puce and whatever, and there are probably some of those colors out there. So let me just say that it is a colorful group, a group that seems to be dressed for warm weather. A group that doesn't look overly warm, however. It is not really very hot, not at this time of the morning at least, in Iowa City today, and everyone looks fairly cool and comfortable. There's very little fanning with programs, as happened so much in August, or did happen when we had August commencements. Who knows, maybe sometime we'll have them again. But there's very little fanning, and people just seem to be relatively comfortable. This part of the field house that is enclosed by the curtains around the stage area, and there's much more to the field house that goes off to the west, but this part of the field house is decorated in the usual way. There is bunting or curtaining or drapes or however you want to refer to them all over the place. The bunting drapery is in the school colors, black and old gold, and American flags are placed as usual in the alcove areas, that is the space between the pillars that hold up the balconies that I see across from me. Then, of course, there's a large American flag to my left that is over the entrance, the wall that forms the entrance to the field house, the east entrance or main entrance, and the two Iowa standards to either side of the flag. At the stage area, there is the emblem of the university with the outline picture of Old Capitol. Old Capitol being in white, the background in old gold, and the lettering in black. The basketball area up there, I think that's what that is covered so that you don't have any idea that we're looking down on a basketball court. I mean, the floor is covered, and then the hoop up at that end is also covered. And I see there are two signs, one to my left that says period, fouls, player, fouls, and fouls, that is left over from some athletic event, probably a basketball event, and I'll try to call the players and the fouls for you as the program proceeds, but I don't think there'll be any fouls. And then off to my right, over the alcove in which the stage or platform sits, is another sign that says period, match, class, match, and at the top it says Iowa and Drake, and I have no idea what that refers to unless it's wrestling or something like that. And I can't see any connection between that and what's going to happen here today. The platform area is tastefully decorated, as it always is. Of course, you have the black curtains in the background with the Iowa seal or emblem in the center. And then you have the usual geraniums. I think they're geraniums, pink and a deeper red, and the vases of glads and the potted palms and all of the things that go with commencement, which it just wouldn't be commencement without this kind of thing. People expect it, It lends a touch to commencement, and people would be unhappy if you didn't have it. And the band, as I said, is just in front of the stage. I would say that some 2/3 of the people who are receiving degrees today, 4/5, are now in and have taken their places. As a matter of fact, I can see the end of the line that is coming in from the south. I can't see the one feeding in from the north because it's directly below us. And there come a few people in caps and gowns who look like they've either lost their position in line or are marshals who are helping. I don't mean to suggest that marshals look like they've lost their way into commencement, but these people are coming in looking very official and looking over the situation to see how it is proceeding. And I can see now that they are officials who are trying to size up the situation and see how far we have gotten in bringing the graduates in. I made a mistake a minute ago when I said that I could see the end of the line across from me. That was just a little gap in the line, and now more people have come around the corner, and it looks as if this march will go on during a good part of the morning. Our little announcer's booth that was unbearably hot in August and sometimes too in June, that you've heard me talk about so much. John Sondrol, who's sitting beside me and handling the controls, and I have spent many an hour in that announcer's booth. That now, I'm glad in a way to tell you, is gone. That's history. And we are seated in a different position. We're seated on a little platform in front of and a little below the second balcony. Now this platform is sort of out in the open, and you probably, this is called Radio Row, John tells me, the area in which we're seated. We're out in the open, and and this is not a comfortable position for a person like myself who gets dizzy standing on a footstool. It is really out in the open. I keep telling myself everything's perfectly safe, and I'm sure it is. But we are sort of suspended out here, much more substantially than what I said would lead you to think. And the audience, the people behind us on the second balcony, sort of look down on us, maybe in more ways than one. But they do physically actually look down on us. And you can probably hear better at this broadcast, if better is the word. You can hear the talk, the noise, the general confusion, the bumps and jars when people run down these steps that form the seats of the second balcony. The steps or seats are spaced just far enough apart to make it difficult to walk down comfortably. And so you almost have to thump down, you see, and you'll hear some of that in the background. Well, I think I've told you about the audience and the situation. The platform is to our right, and thus to the west, and to our left, and we're a little towards that end. That is, we're located not exactly in the middle, but up towards that end, the east end of the field house. That part of the field house is to our left. The graduates have practically all come in. They're not graduates yet, they're seniors, but they'll be graduates here very shortly, and the program soon will begin. The first number will be the national anthem, and then the invocation, and then the recognition of honors, and then the conferring of degrees, advanced degrees first, PhD and masters, and then the address by a graduating senior, James Michael Moses, the charge to the graduates by the president of the university, Willard Boyd, and the university hymn, and the benediction. John Sondrol just tapped me on the arm to indicate that the platform officials were coming in. This party is led by the president of the university, President Willard Boyd, wearing the, of course, cap and gown and the insignia of his office. And marching beside him is Dean Robert Ray, who is Marshal or Master of Ceremonies, I guess you would say, for the commencement exercises this June. They're marching side by side, and then the other platform officials, the 70 or 80 that I mentioned a minute ago, are marching by twos behind them. I see the deans. The deans are first, or are early in the line. The deans who will present the graduates for the conferring of degrees, and the other officials and dignitaries of the university. Since these people are wearing hoods, most of them, if not all of them, and the hoods come from different universities, master's hoods and doctor's hoods, they present a very colorful sight as they march up. As they get to the head of the aisle, that is to our right, they split into two columns. The people on the left go to the left and up the left stairs. And these seem not to be the high stairs that we have had often in June in the past. This is the low platform, only 3 or 4 steps up. Yeah, that's one difference. I hadn't realized why there seemed to be a difference this year, but the difference is that the platform is relatively low, or at least it's so far away from me this year that it looks low in perspective in the distance. Anyhow, they're not climbing many steps. And then the people who marched on the right side are turning to the right and going up the steps to the right. There being 2 sets of steps, obviously. They take their places as they arrive there and pick up their programs, which are already on the seats for them, as they are for the students who are graduating. And they open them because this convocation, like all convocations here, is so well organized that in each of the programs are instructions about what you should do and when you should do it and how you should do it. It's all sort of laid out so that things will run smoothly, and I must say they usually do run smoothly. The president, insofar as I can see, and I'm not sure that I can see everything clearly because they are a bit back in, it's at such a distance, and they are a bit back in the shadows. But the president, I imagine, and if I find out otherwise, I'll tell you, is seated at in his chair, which is a cathedral-type chair. But this time, and I now have found him, finally, this time he is not seated way off to the side of the stage, but just a bit to the side of the lectern. Now, the processional, I guess we can say, has been completed, and the audience is applauding, I suppose, everybody, the graduates,
Ladies
the
and
officials.
gentlemen, will you please rise for our national anthem and remain standing for the invocation.
O Lord of all the manifold creation that we have studied in this university, bless those studies that they may be transformed into service of our fellow man. You know how we are daily tempted to curse our neighbor, exploit strangers, and destroy our environment with the leverage of our knowledge. Make us repentant of the pride in our great power and the poor stewardship we exercise over the earth on which we are privileged to live. Let this large class of learned and skilled students make a humane and constructive impact in our distressed society. May they be motivated by love and peace. Take all the vast knowledge here represented, the secrets of nature, the methods of technology, the struggle against disease and injustice, the complex workings of society, and the arts and letters of our culture, and release all such understandings to bless the very air we breathe and the communication we have among us. Continue among us at the University of Iowa as students, graduates, faculty, administration, staff, and citizens of this state, the fellowship which we have shared thus far, and keep us desiring to grow in grace, to seek truth, and to express love. Amen.
The invocation was presented by Professor David Belgum, professor from the School of Religion. The first voice you heard was that of the Master of Ceremonies, Dr. Robert Ray.
The names of students who have received academic honors are indicated in the commencement program. The students who have been chosen to represent this group of scholars will rise as their names are read and come to the platform. Gail Marie Babbitt, College of Liberal Arts. Richard J. Tyner, Honors Program, Liberal Arts. Susan Grady Fenwick, College of Education. Henry Warren Youngquist, College of Dentistry. Diane K. Lyons, College of Nursing. Nicholas Harold Anton, College of Medicine. John Douglas Morgan, College of Pharmacy. Ronnie Ray Tharp, College of Law. Edwin Allen James, College of Business Administration. Roger Leroy White, College of Engineering.
These 10 students, and you probably counted the 10 as they were named, represent the students in each of the 10 colleges of the university who have won honors during their academic careers. As their names were called, they rose and proceeded up the aisles toward the platform, and they are now assembling on the right of the stage, that is the right as I look at it, at the head of the stairs. And they are now, having assembled there, or nearly assembled there, proceeding across the platform. I can't quite see them yet. I can't from this position see all the platform, but there they come. They are marching in a good straight line across the platform and will take positions to Dr. Ray's left as he faces us.
Mr. President, I present these 10 distinguished scholars who, because of their own superior attainments, have been chosen to represent the great group of university scholars whom today we honor because of marked superiority.
Ms. Babbitt, Mr. Tyner, Mrs. Fenwick, Mr. Youngquist, Miss Lyons, Mr. Anton, Mr. Morgan, Mr. Tharp, Mr. James, and Mr. White, for your own high distinction, the University of Iowa congratulates you, and through you, the great company of scholars you have the honor to represent.
The students who represent all the honors students are now marching across the stage toward the south and will leave the stage or platform from the other set of stairs. As they pass President Boyd, each shakes hands with the president and receives a document which I understand is a letter congratulating them on their scholastic achievement. They are now making their way down the stairs and filing into the positions that they left a few minutes ago among the other graduates. everything stops until they return to those positions. Dean Ray is standing at the lectern out of honor to these students, and President Boyd is watching them too as they return to their seats. The next order of business, if I read the program correctly, is the actual conferring of degrees. One student had a long way to walk, and he now is almost directly below us. He had to walk the whole length of this part of the field house.
The doctoral degrees, please rise. Mr. President, these candidates, having completed all of the requirements for the degrees Doctor of Philosophy and Doctor of Musical Arts, are recommended to you by the faculty of the Graduate College for the conferring of these degrees.
On the recommendation of the faculty of the Graduate College, and by the authority vested in me by the State Board of Regents, I confer on each of you the degree Doctor of Philosophy and Doctor of Musical Arts as designated.
Will the graduates please be seated?
Dean Spriestersbach presented the candidates for the doctor's degree. Spriestersbach is Dean of the Graduate College.
Gerald Eugene Albright. Major advisors, Professor Franklin D. Stone, Professor William G. Monahan, Education.
And Dr. Ray is calling
Franz
their names.
C. Amelanx. Major advisor, Professor Alexander Aspel, French and Italian.
These are the only students, as I understand it, who will go to the platform to receive their
Harold
degrees.
Dean Anderson. Major advisors, Professor George M. McCormick, Geology, and Professor Robert E. Yeager, Science Education. Jason Dana Andrew. Major advisor, Professor Leonard Miller, Education. Howard Andrew Barnes. Major advisor, Professor Stowe Persons, History. Robert Martin Baer. Major advisor, Professor Richard A. Stevenson, Business Administration. Bernard Wayne Benson, a January graduate. Major advisor, Professor Robert E. Yeager, Science Education.
There are 107 students in this group,
John William Bettis. Major advisor, Professor John L. Locke, Pharmacy. Donald Henry Bowley, a January graduate. Major advisor, Professor John A. Beer, Music. Robert J. Bradley. Major advisor, Professor Norman F. Calouse, Office Management and Business Education. David William Brady. Major advisor, Professor John C. Walke, Political Science. Robert Stewart Breitzer. Major advisor, Professor John C. McGalliard, English. Vandal Klein Brock. Major advisor, Professor George Starbuck, English. Richard John Brooke. Major advisor, Professor Robert S. Wachall, English. Gordon Dean Brown. Major advisor, Professor Gerhard Hartman, Hospital and Health Administration. James Richard Cessna, a January graduate. Major advisor, Professor Donald M. Levy, Electrical Engineering. Leo Russell Coleman, an August graduate, Professor Jaime Voxman, music. Christ Henry Costa, major advisor, Professor Ralph Van Dusseldorp, education. James Eugene Kroshak, a January graduate, major advisor, Professor Darrell D. Penrod, mechanics and hydraulics. Charles Otto David Schofer, major advisor, Professor John O. Kreitz, counseling and psychology. Robert Scott Decker, major advisors, Professor Jerry J. Colrose, Professor Richard G. Kessel, zoology. Carla Kelly D., major advisor, Professor Donald J. Levis, psychology. Lester Aloysius Digman, major advisor, Professor Charles R. Klassen, business administration. Donald Clifford Ennemark, a January graduate, major advisor, Professor Earl D. Iman, electrical engineering. Leonard Doyce Flansburgh, a January graduate, major advisor, Professor Noah Hershkowitz, physics. Dale Bennett Fox, an August graduate, major advisor, Professor John K. Stilley, chemistry. Richard Wade Gates, major advisor, Professor Robert E. Yeager, science education. Robert Alexander Gillespie, major advisor, Professor George Starbuck, English. Eugene Arlen Glader, major advisors, Professor J. M. Burdick, philosophy, and Professor Donald R. Cassidy, physical education for men. Lynn William Glass, major advisor, Professor Robert E. Yeager, science education. Dale L. Grabinski, major advisor, Professor E. G. Richardson, education. Charles Ralph Granger, major advisor, Professor Robert M. Muir, botany. Rex Walter Hagans, an August graduate, major advisor, Professor William G. Monahan, education. Bhupendrakumar Ratanji Hazratwala, major advisor, Professor Seymour M. Blaug, pharmacy. Robert Eugene Hammer, major advisor, Professor Clifford E. Howe, education. Harold Lee Henderson, major advisor, Professor Ralph R. Roberts, education. Darrell Barton Hoff, major advisor, Professor Robert E. Yeager, science education. Richard Lee Hoff, major advisor, Professor Kenneth MacDonald, preventative medicine and environmental health. Charles William Hoffner II, a January graduate, major advisor, Professor John P. Robinson, electrical engineering. Charles Leland Houck, an August graduate, major advisor, Professor Robert Howren, English. Cheng Chung Huang, major advisor, Professor Rex Montgomery, biochemistry. Robert David Hughes, major advisor, Professor John K. Stilley, chemistry. Frederick R. Ignatovich, major advisor, William G. Monahan, Education. Glenn Alistair Johnson, Major Advisor, Professor Hugh V. Cordier, Speech. Marjorie Jane Johnson, Major Advisor, Professor Drury W. Wall, Mathematics. Richard Gustav Johnson, Major Advisor, Professor Donald H. Hawsey, Geology. Walter James Jones, Major Advisors, Professor Jaime Voxman and Professor Betty Bang, Music. Sister Mary Joelle Jordan, Major Advisor, Professor Robert H. Emke, Mathematics. Prabhudas Purushottam Kantasaria, Major Advisor, Professor James O. Osborne, Chemical Engineering. John Dale Kaufman, Major Advisor, Professor John E. Jones, Education. Alan Dean Keller, Major Advisor, Professor Gerhard Kropf, Music. Raymond Dennis Kent, Major Advisor, Professor Kenneth L. Mall, Speech Pathology and Audiology. Sang Nim Kim, a January graduate, Major Advisor, Professor Carl Kammermeyer, Chemical Engineering. James Clarence Knox, Major Advisor, Professor Neil Salisbury, Geography. Harry Norman Langdon, Major Advisors, Professor David Knopf, Dramatic Art, and Professor Donovan Oakes, Rhetoric and Speech and Dramatic Art. Ho Min Lin, Major Advisor, Professor W.R. Ingram, Anatomy. Shirley May Lindell, Major Advisor, Professor Franklin Kuntz, Preventative Medicine and Environmental Health. Frank Scott Lasella, Major Advisor, Professor Keith Long, Preventative Medicine and Environmental Health. Walter Don Martin, Major Advisor, Professor G. Robert Carlson, Education. G. Dale Meyer, a January graduate, Major Advisor, Professor George C. Hoyt, Business Administration. Michael Franklin Miller, Major Advisor, Professor John J. Birch, Statistics. Robert Stanley Nelson, Major Advisor, Professor Lon D. Drake, Geology. Melvin N. Olivan, Major Advisor, Professor James A. Van Allen, Physics. Robert Albert Olson, Jr., Major Advisor, Professor Lowell A. Shore, Education. Dindyal Chunilal Patel, Major Advisor, Professor John L. Locke, Pharmacy. Rolf Arlen Peterson, a January graduate, Major Advisor, Professor Leonard D. Aaron, Psychology. David Thomas Pearsall, Major Advisor, Professor John C. Sims, Music. LaFern Ellis Price, Major Advisor, Professor Gladys Scott, Physical Education for Women. Walter Lewis Reed, Major Advisors, Professor Leonard N. Miller and Professor Ralph R. Roberts, Jr., Education. Erwin William Richter, Major Advisors, Professor Robert E. Yeager, Science Education, and Professor Robert M. Muir, Botany. David Craig Rhine, Major Advisor, Professor Drury W. Wall, mathematics. Guy Lowry Rosenberg, an August graduate. Major advisor, Professor Albert Hood, mathematics. Brent David Rubin, major advisor, Professor Richard W. Budd, journalism. Charles Henry Schrader, major advisor, Professor John O. Kreitz, counseling and psychology. Bernard Anthony Sweets, major advisor, Professor Bernard A. Becker, pharmacology. Kui Shen, major advisors, Professor H. C. S. Suan and Professor Carl E. Longren, electrical engineering. Jerry Dean Seibel, major advisor, Professor Louis Biagioni, accounting. Donald John Skay, major advisor, Professor Clifford E. Howe, education. Arlene Molly Stein, an August graduate, major advisor, Professor Jerry N. Kuhn, education, and Professor Margaret Weiser, education. Frank Richard Swenson, a January graduate, major advisor, Professor George Lance, mechanical engineering. C. Kia Cheng, major advisor, Professor Charles M. Tipton, physical education for men and physiology. Daniel Ellsworth Van Tassel, major advisor, Professor Frederick P. W. McDowell, English. Kenneth Clifford Wickman, major advisor, Professor John L. Locke, pharmacy. Alan Delbert Wilkes, a January graduate, major advisor, Professor D. S. Petrick, chemistry. Forrest Clyde Yates, major advisor, Professor Lowell A. Shore, education. Richard Louis Benish, Jr., major advisor, Professor Fred L. Failing, German. In absentia, David Max Randall, major advisor, Professor Jaime Voxman, music. Delbert Richard Simon, a January graduate, major advisor, Professor Harold I. Stark, music. Finish?
107 students received PhD degrees this June. Not all of them were here, of course, or this would have taken much longer, although some were here.
We have an emergency call for Ron Canby, area code 515. The number is 244-5221. A Mr. Hogan is the calling party. Ron Canby.
As I said, not all of them were here, but some were here who actually received their degrees in August or June. The candidates for doctor's degrees were presented by Dean Spriestersbach.
The candidates for the graduate college degrees, other than the doctoral degree, please rise. These degrees are Master of Arts, Master of Science, Master of Fine Arts, Master of Business Administration, Master of Social Work, Master of Arts in Teaching, and Specialist in Education. Mr. President, these candidates, having completed all of the requirements for the degrees as listed in the commencement program, are recommended to you by the faculty of the Graduate College for the conferring of these degrees.
On the recommendation of the faculty of the Graduate College, by authority vested in me by the State Board of Regents, I confer on each of you the degree Masters of Art, Masters of Science, Master of Fine Arts, Master of Business Administration, Master of Social Work, Master of Arts in Teaching, and Specialist in Education, as designated.
Will the graduates please be seated?
There were 393 students in this group, and they will not march individually to the platform. That brings the total of graduate degrees to
Candidates for the
505.
degrees Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Fine Arts, Bachelor of Music, and Bachelor of Science in the College of Liberal Arts, please rise. Mr. President, these candidates have completed the requirements for the degrees as they are listed in the commencement program and are recommended to you by the faculty of the College of Liberal Arts for the conferring of these degrees.
On the recommendation of the faculty of the College of Liberal Arts, and by the authority vested in me by the State Board of Regents, I confer on each of you the degree Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Fine Arts, and Bachelor of Music as designated.
Please be seated.
This is the largest group to receive degrees this morning, 1,229. They were presented by Dean Dewey B. Stewart. Now Dean David H. Vernon of the College of Law.
Will the candidates from the College of Law please rise? Mr. President, these candidates, having completed all the requirements for the degrees as listed in the commencement program, are recommended to you by the faculty of the College of Law for the conferring of these degrees.
On the recommendation of the faculty of the College of Law, and by authority vested in me by the State Board of Regents, I hereby confer on each of you the degree Juris Doctor.
Will the graduates of the College of Law please be seated?
85 students in this group, and one student barely made it. He walked in and was able to stand during the conferring of the degree. He came in just at that time.
Will the candidates for the degree of Doctor of Medicine please rise? Mr. President, these candidates, having completed all of the requirements for the degree Doctor of Medicine, are recommended to you by the faculty of the College of Medicine for the conferring of this degree.
On the recommendation of the faculty of the College of Medicine, and by the authority vested in me by the State Board of Regents, I confer on each of you the degree Doctor of Medicine.
Will the Doctors of Medicine please be seated?
The presentation of candidates was made by the Dean Pro Tem, Dr. William Ulrike.
Will the candidates for the degree Doctor of Dental Surgery please rise? Mr. President, these candidates, having completed all the requirements for the degree Doctor of Dental Surgery, are recommended to you by the faculty of the College of Dentistry for the conferring of this degree.
On the recommendation of the faculty of the College of Dentistry, and by authority vested in me by the State Board of Regents, I confer on each of you the degree Doctor of Dental Surgery.
Will the graduates of the College of Dentistry please be seated?
54 students in this group. The presentation by Dean Donald J. Gallagher. Now Dean Lewis Seezoff for the College of Pharmacy.
Will the candidates for the degree Bachelor of Science in Pharmacy please rise? Mr. President, these young people have qualified for the degree Bachelor of Science in Pharmacy and are recommended to you by the faculty of the College of Pharmacy for the conferring of this degree.
On the recommendation of the faculty of the College of Pharmacy, and by authority vested in me by the State Board of Regents, I confer on each of you the degree Bachelor of Science in Pharmacy.
Will the pharmacists please be seated?
70 students in this group. The next presentation for the College of Engineering will be made by Dean Hunter Rouse.
Will the candidates for the degrees to be granted by the College of Engineering please rise? Mr. President, these candidates, having completed all of the requirements for the degrees as listed in the commencement program, are recommended to you by the faculty of the College of Engineering for the conferring of these degrees.
On the recommendation of the faculty of the College of Engineering, and by authority vested in me by the State Board of Regents, I confer on each of you the degree Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering, Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering, Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering, Bachelor of Science in Industrial Engineering, and Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering as designated.
Will the engineers please be seated?
And now we have 58 new engineers. Next, for the College of Business Administration, Dean B.L. Barnes.
Will the candidates for the degree Bachelor of Business Administration please rise? Mr. President, these candidates, having completed all requirements for the degree Bachelor of Business Administration, are recommended to you by the faculty of the College of Business Administration for the conferring of this degree.
On the recommendation of the faculty of the College of Business Administration, and by authority vested in me by the State Board of Regents, I confer on each of you the degree Bachelor of Business Administration.
Will the graduates be seated, please?
This is another large group, 270 new graduates. Now, Dean Laura C. Dustin for the College of Nursing.
Will the candidates for the degree Bachelor of Science in Nursing please rise? Mr. President, these candidates, having completed all the requirements for the degree Bachelor of Science in Nursing, are recommended to you by the faculty of the College of Nursing for the conferring of this degree.
On the recommendation of the faculty of the College of Nursing, and by authority vested in me by the State Board of Regents, I confer on each of you the degree Bachelor of Science in Nursing.
Will the graduates of the College of Nursing please be seated?
116 new graduates from the College of Nursing.
Will candidates for elementary, secondary, and community college teaching certificates from the various university colleges please rise? Mr. President, these students, as an integral part of their college course, have completed professional studies in education. The State Board of Instruction of Iowa recognizes the professional achievement of these men and women and has empowered the university to present to those who will teach in Iowa the appropriate teaching certificate.
The University of Iowa cooperates with the State Board of Public Instruction in preparing men and women who will teach in elementary and secondary schools and community colleges. The university takes pride in educating good teachers. To you who have chosen to enter the honored profession of teaching and have met the requirements, my colleagues and I extend hearty congratulations.
Please be seated.
The presentation was made by Dean Howard Jones of the College of Education. Most of those who stood were from the College of Liberal Arts and the College of Education.
Will James Michael Moses please come to the platform?
Mr. Moses is representing the students today and will make a brief statement, a charge to the graduates from the student point of view. He has already, I see, made his way to the platform. He's from the College of Medicine, one of the 111
Dean Ray, Mr.
graduates.
President, ladies and gentlemen, it is traditional for a graduating senior to present a few remarks to represent all graduating individuals at the University of Iowa during its commencement. This year happens to be the 100th year of existence of the College of Medicine at the University of Iowa. In its centennial year, the university has honored the college by asking that a member of its college present remarks representing graduating seniors. The college accepts this honor and believes it can reciprocate by introducing to you one of its most able and outstanding new doctors of medicine. James M. Moses, newly conferred Doctor of Medicine has been outstanding not only in his academic work, but as an athlete, as a citizen, and above all, as the first recipient of the Hancher Finkbein Memorial Award as the outstanding male graduate from the university for this year, the first such person to ever be designated from the College of Medicine. I am happy to introduce to you Doctor of Medicine Moses.
The introducer was Dean Reiki of the College of Medicine.
Thank you, Dean Reiki. This is not the best of all possible times to be speaking on a university campus. Yet if one were fearful of speaking here, where could one feel secure in expressing his thoughts? We are all here to celebrate a mood of accomplishment. We are here to give thanks to the past, and we are here to look firmly to our future. First, let me talk about determination. Determination is present today in terms of financial sacrifice and in terms of human energy. Your parents and yourselves supplied the money, substantial sums of it, to make this day possible. The gown you wear today is undoubtedly the most expensive piece of wearing apparel you've worn, and you paid for it. The human energy was supplied by the graduates sitting here now. Energy was also supplied by the faculty of Iowa, and for that expenditure, we are also grateful. But determination doesn't end today. It does not end for any of us. We all have a deep and sincere obligation to continue the high level of accomplishment and achievement that this day marks. We must continue to be determined that this university, as well as ourselves, spends its lifetime in the pursuit of excellence. An adequate education, an adequate university, an adequate graduate, an adequate citizen. These are no longer enough. We must devote and drive ourselves to excellence. It is true that none of us, including the university, can hope to achieve excellence in all fields of knowledge. But we can achieve a degree of excellence in our own fields of major interest. It is, however, an unhappy thought that almost every individual uses only a small portion of his intellectual ability in his lifetime. Unless we are willing to tap fully all our spiritual, intellectual, and physical resources, we cannot expect social improvement or even social survival. The university exists to set the example, but the goal of excellence is for all of us. Excellence cannot be obtained, however, without dedication. Dedication involves a commitment by the university to its students and by its students to the university. But far more importantly, there must be dedication by all to the wider community, to our society itself. Excellence, dedication, sacrifice, commitment. These are all fine words to be used on graduation day. But today, this spring, this 1970, is asking for something more than fine words. That something, it seems to me, is involvement. For without involvement, the words are meaningless and hollow rhetoric. Involvement is what today is all about. Student involvement, yes, certainly, but also individual and group involvement outside the university's campus. By all of you who sit here today watching this ceremony. We students feel we have something to say, and we feel that what we have to say can contribute to both the university and to our society. We feel that the experience of the clientele groups, any group to be served, is an important factor in the decision-making process. I don't mean that involvement should lead to a blind consensus, but I think that through involvement, a creative, active force for the public good can be established. Just as students should be involved in the development of the curricula which shapes their lives, so must we all be involved in all of those decisions which affect us and our society. In short, all elements of society should be involved in undertaking social change. The so-called power structure must make itself available and accessible to involvement, because without accessibility to the seats of power, even the most dedicated and committed voices frustratingly go unheard. The events of this spring point out an essential fact. The client groups, especially the student client groups, are demanding involvement. They are committed to excellency, not to adequacy. I think that commitment to excellency is a good one for all of us, not just the students, but each and every one of us sitting in this field house today. In conclusion, maybe this time, upon reflection, will be the best of all possible times to graduate. It may well be that the renewal of human involvement in the democratic process will spark the end of many of the social injustices that we have been tolerating too long. Thank you.
The speaker was James Michael Moses of the College of Medicine, who gave the address by a graduating senior. Now the President, Willard R. Boyd, to deliver the traditional charge to the graduates.
We mourn those who have died at Jackson State, in Vietnam, at Kent State, and in Cambodia. In our sorrow, we must affirm them. We fail them if we do not work for peace, freedom, and education. To deny one of these is to deny them all. To achieve these ends, we must reject destruction, repression, and indifference. We must embrace tolerance, persuasion, and concern. In a democracy, the means are as important as the ends, and no one has the legal or moral authority to usurp the rights of others. We are obligated to respect the rights of all. We are also obligated to take stock of ourselves. No individual, no institution, no society can be satisfied with itself if it is to survive. What is wise social policy in one era may not be wise policy in another. Policies must be reassessed. Reassessment should not be feared, but rather encouraged. This is true whether the issue is war, human rights, or taxes. It is essential, however, that the debate be open and free from intimidation and coercion. What is true of society generally is especially true of the university in particular. The university must not be a prison of dogma, but rather a port for conflicting points of view. The universities must and will remain open as centers of free inquiry. We must be producers of new ways, not just teachers of old ways. We must be willing to reason, to tolerate, and to respect. We must recognize that there can be honesty in our differences, that respect can emerge from diversity, and that progress takes many forms. The time has come for you to part from this university. You have invested your energies in this place, and we trust that you have enhanced your life here. Your forebears founded and nurtured this university. It is up to you to justify its present and guarantee its future.
You have just heard the traditional charge to the graduates delivered by the President of the University, President Willard Boyd. Now, Dean Ray.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please rise and join in singing the university hymn, Old Gold. The words appear on page 57 of your commencement program.
Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord trouble and disturb you until you desire his peace. Amen.
With the pronouncement. As I started to say, with the pronouncement of the benediction by Professor David Belgum, the June 1970 commencement exercises at the University of Iowa come to a close. The graduates have now risen, and the music that you hear in the background signals the beginning of the recession. In times of problems and tensions, such as we have today in our country and throughout the world, it is not easy to find words to say something meaningful about graduation. Somehow the usual sentiments that you hear at commencement sound trite and even irrelevant. And yet, if anything emerges clearly from these difficult times, and this was made, I think, abundantly clear by our speakers this morning, it is a renewed sense of the essential importance of education. If the many problems that beset us are to be solved, and if the nation and the world are to be restored to unity and to purpose, it must be done by people of knowledge and understanding, trained leaders of the kind who received their degrees this morning. Education must be preserved. More than ever, it is the hope of the future. Another thought that emerges clearly, I think, is that the concern of our young people over war, inequity, and injustice, and all evil in general, is in the long run a most hopeful sign. Out of this concern may well come, must come as a matter of fact, a better society. Among the leaders of this society, this better society, will be the 2,497 students who graduated from the University of Iowa this morning. Please join with me then, as we close this broadcast, in wishing them the best of good fortune in the awesome tasks that lie ahead. WSUI's engineer, John Sondrel, and I thank you for tuning in this morning and hope that you enjoyed the program. These are the broadcasting facilities of the University of Iowa.